Come on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we dive into our favorite horror movies. I'm Parker.
And I'm Stevie.
And today we're looking at 2017's Mother. Directed by Darren Aronofsky. Join us as we journey to a mother's house and learn all about Mother. Come on, girl. Let's scream.
Okay, y'all. So we are on the road again. We're doing a quick little, road trip, girls trip.
Trip.
So if the sound is a little weird today, sorry. We're only recording off of one phone, and we're driving on the highway, so.
Yep.
But this movie...
This movie is crackhead, bitch.
Okay, so this came after Silver Linings Playbook, right? And after Hunger Games. So this was Jennifer Lawrence was I appreciate her as an actress because I think she's really willing to try shit and do stuff. And this was her in her experimental era of what do I want to do? I'm gonna be real. I like her more in comedic roles. I think she has. I think she has great comedic timing. I think she just has great delivery, and I think she's a funny person. And I think she can also be physically and her body humor is really great.
100%.
So, but I don't mind her in serious roles because I love her in The Hunger Games. She's fine in this.
Winter's Bone, that she got her first Academy Award nomination. She was great.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah. Watching that movie, I completely understand why she blew up the way she did.
Yeah.
This movie, her acting,
it's fine. Here's the thing: they gave her no character. They were just kind of because her character isn't even a character, and she's supposed to represent Mother Earth in this movie. So basically, this whole movie is a retelling of the Bible, the Catholic Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it doesn't do a good job. It doesn't really do anything with it. It's just kind of this is it. And it's it's been done before.
Yeah, all just theming and symbolism, but just for the sake of
theming and symbolism.
Yeah.
And so I kind of touched on this last week a little bit with Carrie. So I grew up in a Catholic household, and I received a Catholic education from preschool all the way through my senior year of high school. So I know the Bible like the back of my hand. I don't believe in it, but I know it. And so every single thing in this movie, I got right away. I knew exactly what they were going for.
Yeah.
And so I guess if you aren't familiar with the Bible and the teachings of the Bible, then maybe this movie could have been a little bit of a mindfuck. For me, it just was not. But I also
it was predictable at a certain point.
It got to a point where I was well, duh. And then everything at the end, my problem with it is if you're going to do this retelling of the Bible, have something to say or be I'm taking something from the Bible and this is what I want to focus on. And nothing to say. It was just kind of okay, that's it.
Do and this happens and then this shit happens and it's but what's the point here? It wants to say some things, but it doesn't go all the way.
I will say I was entertained. I had fun watching it, but again, it's not the think piece that I thought Carrie was last week. And what's also I thought no matter what movie we did this week was gonna have an issue because Carrie, you and I praised so much last week because I think just everything about it was a 10 out of 10. The cinematography, the directing, the acting, the score, every single part of it was just to help to tell the story.
We did kind of handicap Mother because we did Carrie last week.
But I mean,
my favorite scary movie to this movie.
Which again, I'm not shitting on Mother. It's just I just thought it kind of everything kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
Even Jennifer Lawrence, who I love, it's not her best performance. I've seen her do much better in other shit.
I think her performance is bad in this movie. Ooh. I'm gonna say it.
And you're allowed to. That's fair because she's kind of
Don't come for me J-Law stands, but
It's kind of, I don't know. Like her
I've seen her be way better.
She's kind of like,
it's a lot of, oh my
what's
God.
happening? No, get out.
Yeah.
What's, Peter!
Peter! Yeah. She just gotta have that, like the Peter face the whole, like,
kind of
movie.
like Katniss, like, when she's, like, panicking aspect.
And she does that thing where, like, her mouth kind of, like, forms into, like, that frowny...
Weird frown, but it's open, and she's like really trying to use her, like, force-it.
Yeah. And this movie...
I feel like she got to this movie, she'd already signed on, and she's like, fuck, I guess I'm in this.
Well, she fucked the director. And she literally, like, in an interview later, she admitted, she was like, I remember her being like, oh, she's very frank about it. She's like, well, I was fucking the director during that movie, so I was just kind of going for it. Like,
good for her. Good for her.
And Darren, okay, so we also have to talk about Darren Aronofsky, the director, of course, who, this is our second time doing a Darren Aronofsky film. We did Black Swan. That's one of his best works.
This, I did not. I would not even, like, you put them side by side, I would not have guessed he did this.
This movie is a good example of how maybe his directing skills are not what they once were, because every Aronofsky film I've seen the past 5-10 years since Black Swan,
where is other ones?
Not my favorite. He also did The Whale with Brendan Fraser. And that movie is just so cringe. Like, he always, like, here lately, because he started out with, like, Requiem for a Dream and, like, all these, like, and The Wrestler is another good one of his. All these really, you know, and Black Swan, of course, we've already praised on this podcast, even though that movie does have some issues, but
it's so good.
But I love it. And it, like, won the Oscar and all this shit. But he's just, in my opinion, he goes too over the top. The melodrama is switched up to 100. And shit just happens in his movies. And Mother very much happens in this movie as well. That just... there are no rules. And he just does shit that, like, doesn't really make logical sense. And his movies exist in these really weird worlds where there's no logic and reasoning really, and things just feel off. And that can be cool, but the way he does it feels pretentious a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like this one was kind of... I don't know enough of his work to say, but I feel like he was kind of jacking himself off with this one. Like, oh, look at me being so, like, oh, I'm being so introspective. And it's like, you're just commenting, you're just retelling the Bible. Yeah. It's not that fucking, like, it's not deep.
He has no real, like, thought behind this.
I can see...
Apparently he wrote it in 5 days, and you can tell. It
shows.
Yeah. You can literally tell.
I can see why this film was controversial, but I mean, also Christians and Catholics get offended by anything that references the Bible.
Literally.
So it's just kind of like, but me, I was like, I don't think it was offensive or just like telling of the Bible or the story of the Bible, but like, I don't know.
I think people just like to be scandalized.
Yeah.
And like to complain about shit. And then you have this camp of people who think that this movie is a masterpiece. I'm not seeing it.
I don't see it. I'm not gagging.
It's the masterpiece in the room with us right now. because I'm not seeing it, you know? But you know what? Like you said, I agree with everything you said, Stevie, about this movie.
I don't think it deserves... Okay,
it's entertaining, and I can't hate it.
Something I learned, it's cinema score... It's based in Las Vegas. This is one of 19 movies that they have given an F rating.
Oh, I don't think it's an F. I can't hate it.
They said it was because they were like, it was one of those movies that it forces the audience to have to think. And like, I was like, I didn't think. I wish I had to think harder, to be honest. I wasn't thinking. I knew what was going on the whole time. I was like, well, there's Adam and Eve. Oh, there's Cain and Abel.
Yeah, literally.
Here's the Great Flood.
And the way that they do it, which we'll get into, but nothing ever makes sense. The narrative is not a cohesive narrative. Like,
no.
They could have...
There's like a time jump, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's a time jump.
They could have tried to make it an actual story and make you actually care about the characters.
And you just don't.
But instead it's just like a movie. Like,
you kind of start in the middle of the plot. Is what it is. You just kind of. I guess I don't know. I don't know if that's the best way to say it. But
we'll get into it. That was our initial thoughts.
Yeah, I will say if you all want to watch it, I watched it for you on YouTube. It's free right now on YouTube. Yeah, so if you don't want to spend money, just go and watch it on fucking YouTube.
Right, that would be a good time to check it out. And it has my mother, my biological mother in it, Michelle motherfucking Pfeiffer.
She's the mother. She is Mother Earth. She is Mother Gaia. She is your mother.
Not her best either.
Well, not her best character.
But she's the best part of this film.
Michelle Pfeiffer can do no fucking wrong. Like, Michelle Pfeiffer does not turn out a bad performance.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And she's one of my all-time favorite actresses. So if you're a Michelle Pfeiffer stan like me, that was the reason why I wanted to watch this movie, like, when it came out in the first place.
Yeah.
I literally heard, like, oh, Michelle Pfeiffer's in a new horror movie. Sign me up.
Yeah.
She's not really in this movie. She has a very small part.
Horror is a very broad term in this film.
Right. It's like a thriller, I guess.
It's much more thriller to me.
It's like a thriller with some, like, graphic violence.
And some horror elements. But not... I would not coin this as a horror film. But I would put this as, if you want a good intro to horror, because we get a lot of those. This is another one I would say, this is probably a good intro to horror. But if you don't want to think for 2 hours, then... I mean, yeah, watch this one, because you don't have to think during this film.
And, like, it's crackhead, like we said. It's an entertaining time.
Yeah.
It's fun to shit talk. It's one of those movies that's gonna be fun, I think, to shit talk. So.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's our initial thoughts on Mother. Let's go ahead and dive into the plot.
So, going forward, if you don't want to have any spoilers, stop the pod.
Yeah.
Go watch the movie. Come back, and you'll hear us talk about...
We're gonna try
film.
to talk about this movie. So yeah, like we said in our spoiler-free review, this movie is a metaphor for the Bible, and our characters are God, played by Javier Bardem,
who's just referred to as him the whole movie,
I guess. I'm gonna call him God.
Yeah.
We've got Jennifer Lawrence as Mother Nature. I'm going to call her Mother.
She's the mother. She is Mother Earth. She is Mother Gaia. She is your mother.
We've got Michelle Pfeiffer and her husband, and I'm not. I'll enter his name here in post, I guess, because I can't look it up right now because we're on the road.
Yeah.
Ed Harris.
But he's Adam. Michelle Pfeiffer is Eve. Their kids are Cain and Abel, and that's we'll go
Those
from
are
there.
Like the main ones, really. Everyone else just gets like a random like name. Like it's not even like they're just like what their job is, or
pretty much. Yeah. So right away we get this 2 to 3 second shot of a woman burning to death, and she closes her eyes, and then everything goes black, and then we see God, Javier Bardem, who is so scrumptious,
so fine, so fine,
and he did a good job. I think. Yeah, he plays a really good like just asshole husband who
doesn't listen
and just wants his ego to get stroked by all of his fans, but we'll get into that. He's in the middle of this like burnt down, dilapidated mansion that looks like it just has been through like a big fire. He has a crystal thing that he puts on a stand, like he has it displayed on a shelf in his study, and then immediately
the house restores itself.
It's kind of like in Beauty and the Beast, when the curse breaks at the end, and then the castle becomes like...
If you've ever seen the original series of Unfortunate Events with Jim Carrey, there's a scene when the kids go into their house, the burnt down house, and it all like restores. And they see the old house. And it's very similar to that. That's what it personally reminded me of.
It was very that. So now we've got this beautiful house, huge wraparound porch.
It reminded me of the house from American Horror Story Roanoke, because it's also in like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's in the middle of this like meadow, in the middle of this forest, and it kind of doesn't really make any sense, like the architecture of it. Like it looks like the cabin from the Cabin in the Woods, if that got like a facelift almost, and was like a McMansion.
Spiral staircase that goes all the way up, and then it just like expands.
Really beautiful house. I mean, the set design.
I would live there.
They popped off. Oh, fully, yeah.
With my little like prairie housewife life, like I'm gonna make
you'd be like
from scratch.
Those memes of Kim K where she's in her like pilgrim outfit, churning butter and whatnot. And Jennifer Lawrence wakes up in bed, and she is like, babe, and she has a really soft voice this whole movie, and her character just kind of has like no spine and doesn't speak up ever. She just kind of mumbles, and she's wandering about her house like, where are you, babe? And her nipples are out. Fully.
She's wearing
full baloney nipples in her sheer top.
Nightgown. She ain't wearing any underwear underneath. Like,
and her ugly hair. What was this like? It was a wig, first of all. Like, and I don't even think they could afford a lace front for this because it was a hard front. It was a hard front.
I'm sorry. Oh, she was not fucking that director good then. Like, I'm sorry. Right. Oh, I'll suck your dick for a lace front.
No, literally, because come on now. And it's that ugly kind of like grayish blonde, like ash blonde. It does not flatter her very well.
No.
And it's this long, and she always has it in like a braid or like a weird like poof on top. And it looks like a croissant. I want to smash it. And she's like frolicking about, where are you? We see her husband out on the porch, and he's gazing out across the beautiful landscape. And we learn that he's a writer, I guess, or a poet.
Yeah, he's a poet.
And he has writer's block right now. Right away, we get their dynamic, and it is not a good dynamic because
she's like goes to the front door, like opens it, she can't find him, and she turns around, and he's like there, and she's like, you scared me. Oh, Kitty, you scared me.
Horsey, you scared me too.
Kitty, you scared me. Horsey, you scared me too.
The house is planet Earth, basically, like the metaphor. And on their
or Eden,
their front door literally has like a cross shape in stained glass windows.
I didn't even notice that.
No, it's literally a cross on their front door.
Wow.
Yeah. So
my bad, y'all.
Already getting obvious sort of
biblical references.
Yeah. She is very interested in what he's doing. She's trying to help inspire him, get him to write some more, and they're rebuilding this house that it was his house from when he was young, apparently, that burnt down. She's helping restore it, and she's the one who's done all of the restoration of this house, apparently. And he is kind of good for nothing. Like, all he does is just sit around and, like, whine and mope. And then he also keeps her in the dark about everything. Like, he makes decisions without telling her. He is kind of a shitty partner. Like, I wouldn't... He's hot, but not husband material.
Like, he's good for a hookup, but, like, I'm not letting him stay and pay the lease.
Right,
you know?
vacation dick, not boyfriend dick.
Oh, absolutely. Summer boy.
He's a summer boy. And she's very passive. She just kind of goes along with whatever he wants to do.
She just takes the beating.
Just takes it.
Literally.
And he's constantly dismissing her, belittling her. And
but, like, also, like, he's, like, trying, like, oh, don't worry. Oh, I got it.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Oh, we're good, girl.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. She's like, oh.
Is it? So. Yeah. She's mixing some gold paint that she's going to paint the walls of their dining room area, I think, that she's working on. And she does this thing where she puts her hand up against the wall of the house, and she, like, closes her eyes, and she can visualize the house's heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because she's Mother Nature, and she's, like, tending to the earth, you know, as Mother Nature does.
Yeah.
And that night, we hear a knock at the door. And God lets in a stranger, a.k.a. Adam. And Mother is like, who is this man? Like, do we even know him? Like, oh.
He's like, oh, he's a doctor.
Yeah. And he thought this place was a bed and breakfast. And she's like, okay.
Why the fuck would you think that? But okay.
He's like, just come on in. And she's like, why would you invite him in without asking me? He's like, oh, it's no big deal. You know?
What am I supposed to do? Where's he gonna go? I don't care. Every time he like said, because he says this a few times, like, well, where are they supposed to go? Okay, I don't care.
I don't know. They can figure it out. Like how did they find their way to our mansion in the middle of the fucking woods? Like, they're clearly up to no good. And she gets anxious, and she is making tea, and she drops the glass and it shatters, and she has to calm herself. And she offers them tea, and Adam gets out a flask of booze and starts sharing with her husband.
Yeah, so she's like, where the hell did you get that? He's like, I always keep it on me. And she's like,
oh.
Okay.
And this guy is like always like hacking and coughing up a lung, and it's like, do you need like some water? Like, girl, like take a sip. Do you need a throat lozenge? Like, take care of yourself.
Milk.
Yeah, he needs some milk. Because he is just hack coughing, and without consoling with his wife, of course, God insists that the doctors stay the night with them.
And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, it's late. Where's he supposed to go? Oh my God, dude, I don't care. But, like, stop bringing
Figure it out.
Like, this ain't my job. But then she's like, whatever, I'll go get some linens and like...
Yeah, she doesn't like want to be rude because she's like a dutiful wife. And Adam comes in and he starts smoking a cigarette, and she goes, oh, there's no smoking in the house. And he just carelessly flicks his cigarette out onto the front porch.
It's like,
okay. And she brings them linens. She finds them in the study.
Well, okay, sorry, going back. First, she says, we don't smoke. And he's like, good for you. He's like, good choice.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, no. In the house.
In the house. Like, whatever. Flick.
I just thought that line was funny where he's like, good for you.
Yeah. He's self-aware. And he reveals that he's actually a huge fan of God's writing, because God is like a poet or whatever.
Yeah, because he shows him the study, and he's like, oh, I love this book.
He's like, wait, well, you're the author?
He's like, yeah, that's me. He's like, oh my God.
I had no idea.
Like, it's so good. Like, oh, you're so talented.
And like, Mother is like very sus of this. Also, God is very protective over that crystal that he keeps displayed in his study.
Yeah.
And
he said it was a gift.
Yeah, a gift. It was a very special gift. And this is when we learn that when his house was in the fire originally, he discovered the crystal in the ashes. And now it is what inspires him to keep creating.
Yeah.
And he tells Adam that, yeah, I found Mother, and her and I got married, and she's been helping me restore the house. She's the one that's been working on it. And Adam goes, oh, so you're not just a pretty face then. And Mother is just over it, like, okay, this guy's a d-hole, like, I want him to go. But God convinces her, no, let's just let him stay. So that night, Mother is sleeping. She's awoken by this strange, like, grunting sound. She goes into the guest room, and we see right away there's an ashtray, and he's been smoking like 8 million cigarettes in their house. But she finds God and Adam in the bathroom, and Adam is naked, and he's just puking his guts out, and God's kind of holding him, like, hold his quote-unquote hair back while he pukes.
Quote-unquote hair,
because he's balding. And we see that, like, above his kind of rib area, there's, like, a big gash. So, like, oh, that's obviously... This is supposed to symbolize, oh, he's creating Eve from the rib of Adam. Yeah. Like, wow, so deep. And she's like, what the fuck? And God's like, give him some privacy. She sees Adam's Zippo lighter sitting next to the ashtray, and she purposely knocks it behind the table so that he can't find it and he won't smoke inside the house anymore. Then suddenly there's a strange ringing sound, and some black ash begins to protrude up along the floorboards, kind of like the darkness from Twitches.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And she starts having like a panic attack, and she goes into the bathroom and she gets this like weird gold powder and she mixes a potion. What was this supposed to be?
I never knew what this. I did not understand what this represented.
I tried looking it up, and like the director does not know what it is. You can tell like no one knows what this is supposed to be. Again, they were just kind of throwing shit at the wall.
They had to be. I want to know the drugs they were taking.
No,
I want to know if this is like Mamma Mia, because Mamma Mia, the movie, they were drunk the whole time they filmed that.
Right.
Because that was the only. That's the only way most of them were going to do it. So I'm like, maybe that's the same thing. Maybe they were doing some serious drugs in this film. Because I'm sorry, how do you get through this film and not like at a point be like, I don't want to do it.
Right. Like, come on now. Let's maybe think about what we're doing. Because she drinks this weird potion and it calms her nerves, and then the darkness like vanishes. Okay, the next morning God tells her that he is, I'm so inspired now from talking to Adam, and it's so nice to connect with someone who actually admires my work. And she's like, well, I love your work. And he's like, whatever.
I know you do. Okay.
And then we get a refrigerator door jump scare. Adam shows up, starts smoking some more.
Can I get a light? I'm gonna smoke on the porch, don't worry. So he goes over to like the gas stove and uses it to light the cigarette.
She's like, God damn it. And the doorbell rings. And it's my mother! Michelle Pfeiffer!
AKA
Eve.
And she's like, where's my husband? Where is he? And it's like, first of all, how did you get here?
Yeah. How did any of them get there? Because several people like show up at their house out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, did y'all hike here? You're in stilettos. Like, what's going on? And she's wearing like a slinky little black dress. She's got her stilettos, and who else but Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman, could play this kind of sultry, like femme fatale kind of role? Yeah. She starts immediately making out with Adam, so they're like, you know her, I guess, and hopefully.
This next part kind of pissed me off. So we hear the fire alarm going off, the smoke detector going off.
Oh, yeah.
Because the food that mother was making for breakfast, it's starting to burn. She's like, oh, crap, breakfast. And she goes to grab it, and she grabs the pan, and she goes, oh, ow. Like, it's hot. And then Michelle Pfeiffer, Eve's dumbass, comes and just grabs it and drops it all over. I'm like, did you not just see mother go, ow?
No, literally.
It's like, why would you, what superpowers do you have?
And then she gets shitty with mother, like, that she burnt her hand. It's like, what do you mean you're shitty? She's like, I'm burnt now. Go take care of my wound, basically.
I need ice.
Yeah. They're sitting around, they have coffee, and they're discussing marriage. We learn that Adam and Eve have 2 sons, Cain and Abel, of course. And Eve is very, like, intrusive, and she's poking and prodding around, trying to learn details about their relationship, because she's just a nosy bitch like that. And she's like, well, do you want kids? And God's like, of course we do. And mother kind of gives a look like, we've never had that conversation before, so why are you speaking for me? That's weird. But he's like, we love kids. And then he's like, you can stay as long as you like. And mother is like,
what the fuck?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Stop doing this without my permission.
And the couple step out, and so she starts grilling him. She's like, why would you say that without asking me first? And he just shrugs it off. He's like, whatever. And then he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go upstairs and work on my new special piece. And mother goes back to painting in the living room. And this is when Eve comes in, and she's got these alcoholic lemonade cocktail drinks.
She's like, I made lemonade. This is my special recipe. And mother goes, what's special? The lemons?
Yeah, I thought that was
she kind of gives her a cunty answer.
Yeah.
And Eve's like,
offended. Yeah. And she's high-key a bitch to her. She's like, can you just give me a tour of the house? This house is all just like set dressing. Why are you working on this instead of working on having kids? And she's
like, I just want to have my house be perfect before I ever have kids.
Yeah. And I love this. She kind of like asserts her dominance. She's like, hey. And then she grabs mother by the shoulder and like turns around. And she's like, listen, I just want to say thank you for inviting us here. Oh.
I didn't, but okay.
And she's like, okay, like, wait, how long are you going to be staying? Da-da-da-da-da-da. And Eve continues to just be a bitch and be nosy and get up on her business and be passive-aggressive to her. But then suddenly, Eve notices God's study. She's like, what's in there? What's that? And
oh, that's
his room, but he doesn't like it when people go in there. And Eve immediately starts to like walk up the stairs towards the study, and she starts to go in, and Mother is like, don't go in there, and like finally kind of snaps. And Eve is like, you really must love him, huh? Oh, God help you. Which I just want to take this moment to say Michelle Pfeiffer has the most like sultry, like, her voice is like butter, you know, like, it's so deep and provocative. And then Adam and God come in and they announce that they are going on this like random hiking trip.
Yeah.
And now she has to be left alone with like this bitch, basically.
She's like, shit, I just want to work and I don't really want this woman around, but okay.
And she's like, can I do some laundry? Can I use your laundry machine? And they go down the basement.
Which I'm like, you've been there a night.
Yeah, why do you need to do laundry?
How do you have laundry?
And she's like, here, let me just take this out. And she...
Oh, yeah, she's like, they show her the laundry, which is down in the basement. And she's like, there's clothes in here. So she takes the wet clothes and just starts throwing them on the ground. And
on the dirty, because it's an unfinished basement, so it's like dirty.
The Mother's like,
floor.
I can get that. Like, stop.
Like, what are you doing? And then she's like, oh... And
this is the problem. And she pulls up these, like, just these, like,
granny panties that Mother was wearing.
She's like, when she got older.
This is how you really want to pressure man. She has, like, lacy, like a thong, kind of.
Like, you gotta keep it entertaining as you get older.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And...
thank you, I guess.
Yeah, and then she's like, how's it going in that department, by the way? And Mother is offended. She's like, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, like, please leave me alone.
She's like, well, I'm just trying to help. I mean, well, maybe he... Never mind. And Mother's like, no, what were you going to say? And she's like, well, maybe he doesn't, like, really love you anymore. How about that?
Think about it.
And Mother's like, okay, whatever. And Eve is like, sorry if I offended you. And she goes back upstairs. But then Mother takes Eve's sexy panties and she puts them in her laundry. And she goes upstairs.
And if you notice, the panties are like green.
Oh yeah,
to represent like leaves
and like the garden panties.
Because Adam and Eve are always depicted wearing like leaves clothes
and stuff. Yeah,
for some reason.
I didn't notice that. That's a good call.
Yeah, you notice because there's a part where we also see her in her bra, and it's like it looks like leaves.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. And she goes back upstairs. She sees the huge mess that Eve left in the kitchen to make those drinks.
Two drinks.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole kitchen's a mess.
Destroyed.
Just covered in lemons. And it's like, what the fuck, you dumbass? Like, Eve, you fucking use this bitch.
God. These people just are treating the house like a hotel room, basically.
Like, just like absolute shit. Like...
But then Mother hears a weird noise. This scene was fucking weird. I don't know what this was supposed to be. She finds like a sea creature in the toilet.
Dude, it's like a heart. I thought it was like a heart.
Yeah, like what the but it had like tentacles coming off of it and shit.
Girl, it was just the director thought it would be funny, so he did it. That's what it feels like. I feel like I think he was fucking with us.
I'm like, what? Because at this point you're like, okay, this is a biblical reference, right? And then you're like, wait, what is that supposed to be?
In a toilet in
the Bible. She like gets the plunger and she like kind of
pokes it,
and then it goes and like retracts itself down into the toilet.
And she's like, okay.
And I did note, we're watching Mother, so this is the Mother toilet, of course.
She shit in the Mother toilet.
Maybe that was just Michelle Pfeiffer from shitting in the Mother toilet too hard. And yeah, that's weird. Doesn't get mentioned again. Get used to that, by the way. Just like weird shit having like no relevance. Mother finds a picture of God in Adam's suitcase, like a signed like 8x10 like fan photograph.
So she figures out, like, oh, these fuckers know
who we are. Yeah. And then she finds Eve snooping around the study, which, you know, obviously this is the temptation of Eve, the snake, all that shit. She's looking at the crystal and she's like, ooh, I want to touch it. And Mother is just like, no, get the fuck out. And she kicks her out. She finally kind of like raises her voice. And Adam and God return. And Mother tells God about the picture of him she found in Adam's suitcase. And she's like, they're lying to us. They're crazy fans. Like,
he's like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, he told me on the hike.
Yeah. And he's like, not worried about it.
He's dying. And he wanted to meet me before he died.
So Mother's kind of like, oh, she kind of feels bad. She's like, oh, I guess maybe I've been overreacting. Like, he kind of gaslights her into thinking.
Yeah, like oh, okay. Yeah. They're just really, like, he has a sad life, I guess.
And then we hear a crash downstairs. They discover Adam and Eve in the study.
And they broke the crystal.
It shatters against the floor, and God gets pissed. And he, what's the word I'm thinking of? Expels them from the Garden of Eden. And
he kicked out of the study. He boards it
up. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, they'll never get in here again. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to kick them out. Like, he's like, oh, yeah? Well, then where will they go? So she's like,
well, they clearly have, he's a doctor.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Like, what kind of doctor doesn't have a house?
And Mother finds Adam and Eve downstairs, and they have, like, they're very performatively, like, apologize. Michelle Pfeiffer's body language is so funny. Like, she's like, we're sorry. Like, we didn't even think it was that big of a deal.
I just wanted to look at it.
She's like, we said we're sorry. What more do you want? And then she's like, no, get the fuck out. She's like, you two can fucking leave. Adam takes the hint, and he, like, ushers Eve down into the basement so they can, like, get their stuff and leave. Mother goes into the study, and God is crunching his hands on the broken pieces, and she's like, here, like, let me help you. And he's like, leave! And, like, kicks her out. And she's like, oh, what the fuck? She goes back downstairs. She finds Adam and Eve are fucking. And Michelle Pfeiffer is like riding him, and she gives a cunty look to Mother, like,
She just, like, leaves. She's like, okay, bye.
She's like, oh, God, okay.
They didn't close the door.
No, they don't give a fuck. And this is like, oh, sinning.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
They had sex.
Da-da-da-da. The first sin was intercourse. Da-da-da-da-da.
Which we learned last week.
And Gary, yeah. And Eve was weak. Say it. Eve was weak, mama. Eve was weak. Then, this is when Cain and Abel show up.
These two psychos.
These are the sons of Adam and Eve, obviously. They're just fighting for no reason. We don't really learn, like, why, like, what the family drama is, but I guess there's family drama.
Will.
Oh, a will.
The oldest son, who would be Cain,
okay,
found the will, which he is not in. So it's all going to Abel, who is the favorite son, which is the same story of the Bible.
Right.
That, well, I don't know about the will thing, but Cain and Abel, Abel was always the favorite son of Adam and Eve, and that pissed off Cain. And so then this turns into a whole bunch of drama of them, like, just running around the house screaming and fighting, and, like, Mother's like, what the fuck? Leave.
Please leave. What? Stop. And it's like, girl, speak up. Like, use those lungs. This must be a Darren Aronofsky thing, because Natalie Portman in Black Swan, her character did the same shit. Like, I can barely speak over, like, 1 decibel. Like,
oh, there's one person yelling. I can't get louder than that.
Right. And then it escalates so bad because, God comes downstairs first, and he is no help, basically, stopping the fight. It escalates so bad that the other brother gets a doorknob. The
older brother, he takes the doorknob and just chases the younger brother and smashes him over the head with it.
Yeah, kind of bashes.
And Jennifer Lawrence, like, saw it and was like, what the
traumatized.
She's like, oh my God, stop. And then
he gets up in her face and is like, it wasn't my fault. And, like, grabs her face.
You're seeing what they're doing to me.
And God comes in, and he grabs the brother off of Mother, and he throws the brother into the wall, and kind of like gets him all bloody, and he like leaves in a rage. And God and Adam and Eve like leave, and she's like, where are you going? And they're like, we have to take him to the hospital. Oh, and they like take the brother with like the head injury to the hospital, leaving Mother alone, and she's in a daze, and there's this huge mess, and all this furniture is broken, and she has to kind of like pick up the pieces now and clean up the carnage, and she's scraping the blood off of the wood floor, and there's this like gash in the planks of the wood that resemble like the bloody gash of the like head of the brother, I guess.
I don't know. This part kept coming up too.
I know.
Like, what does this mean?
It's like, and it keeps bleeding, and like no matter how hard she cleans it, like the wound continues to like spread. Maybe it's just like at this point.
Maybe it's to represent, because that's the first murder.
Right.
Maybe it's to represent how like it just continued. You can't stop. Once it was released, you couldn't stop it. I don't know.
Maybe it's because if the house is planet Earth, then humans like coming out and like being exposed to the Earth is already innately creating the
like
destruction of the Earth.
And that's what I kind of assumed, is it's like, because she wants to take care of the house, which is Earth, but because these guests keep coming, she has to put aside herself, which is the house, and take care of the guests. I guess that's what it was all going for, until like the guests just destroy the house. Listen, take from this film what you want, leave behind what you don't. It's all symbolic.
Exactly. What happens in Mother stays in Mother.
We're on the chopping block.
It's art, and it's editorial. Our heads are on the chopping block, right? And she's an uptown girl, and I'm a downtown girl.
So watch All Stars 1 of RuPaul's Drag Race if you have never watched it, because it is wild.
It's wild. And let's see. So
she's all home alone,
and it's spooky, and like the brother returns to like get his wallet that he left, I guess.
She's like, oh my god, how'd you get in? And he's like, oh, you saw what happened.
Yeah. And
like, it's not my fault.
You think that he's gonna kill her because like she was a witness, right? Yeah. But then he just like leaves, and God appears and tells her that the other brother died, and he died in his arms, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's been a long day, I'm ready for a hot shower and just to go to bed. And she's like, oh, finally. And then she's awoken by Adam and Eve just walking into the house and bringing like a priest or somebody, and they start setting up a wake for their son that just died.
And God's like, oh, I told him they could do this.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I thought it was fine.
You got to tell
me shit.
Stop
Come on
doing
now.
this.
Yeah. And she's like, what the fuck? And she tells Michelle Pfeiffer that she's so sorry for your loss. Michelle Pfeiffer gives her the cold shoulder. It's so funny. She's like,
I can't even imagine. No, you don't have a kid. So don't even begin to act like you know what I'm talking about, because you don't.
Maybe if you had a business, Courtney,
Mother, maybe if you had a kid that you were passionate about, then you would know what I'm talking about. But you don't. So don't even act like you begin to act like you know what I'm talking about. Like, that was literally Michelle Pfeiffer to Mother. She was like,
okay, sorry.
Maybe if you had a business that you were passionate about, then you would know what it takes to run a business, but you don't. So don't even act like you know what I'm talking about.
And there's these assholes who keep sitting on the sink, and she's like, "Do not sit there. It's not supported. Like, it hasn't been braced yet."
Right. And
like, oh, it's fine.
It's fine. And then some people like
wander upstairs,
go into their bedroom and start trying to fuck, like in their bedroom. She's like, "Get out! This is my bedroom." They're like, "Who are you?"
And she's like, "It's my bedroom. Get out." They're like, "Fine, it's your
fun."
It's your room.
And then like this pervy guy starts like trying to assault her, and then all hell breaks loose because the people on the sink are like,
they're like, oh my god, look, see, it's fine. It's
they're like bouncing up and down on
it. Fucking breaks. And
yeah.
Which this is representing the Great Flood, because then everyone is kicked out. Like, everyone is forced to leave. So it's like, because that was God's first, like, undo button in the Bible. Like, oh, I'm wiping all y'all out because y'all are psycho.
Because this is when Mother finally snaps.
Yeah, and then this is, like, also at the point where I don't think we see Adam and Eve anymore. Ever for the rest of the film.
They leave, yeah.
And that's literally how the Bible is, because they just are gone.
Yeah.
After, like, Cain and Abel, you just never hear about Adam and Eve ever again.
Yeah. So, which is a shame because Michelle Pfeiffer was my favorite part.
Yeah, and so now it's all kind of just... I will also say, the last 40 minutes of this film are fucking... That's where it's all wild.
Yeah.
And like... And I only know that because, like, I had to rewatch... Like, I had to stop watching it, and it was, like, the last 40 minutes I had left, and I was like, oh, that's when all the shit goes down.
Yeah, no, fully.
So yeah, they're all kicked out, and...
Mother's left to stop the water leak and pick up the pieces, and she starts finally bitching God out.
Yeah, she's like, you're not... What about me? Like, what about my
Yeah.
You're worried about everyone else, but not me.
I'm sorry, I just had to laugh because I read in my notes. I said, is Jennifer Lawrence a good actress? Not in this fucking movie, I'll tell you much.
Yeah, it's just like, it's one of her weakest.
It is.
Like, what I've seen her, and she's just so, like, because it's just like, I don't know, I feel like she's kind of lifeless behind the eyes in this film.
Yes.
Because it's, again, she doesn't have a character.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
You're Mother Earth. You're Mother Nature. That's not a fucking character.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it wasn't the Santa Claus movies where there's like...
Oh, but she ate.
But she ate. And she was like, I'm gonna make her campy. But like this bitch, like she's sad and melancholy.
I know.
And it's like, ugh,
It's
like,
got
girl.
that mopey face on. Like, ooh, don't make that face.
Ooh, don't make that face.
Oh, don't make that face. Ooh.
And then she's all like, you won't even fuck me. Da-da-da-da-da. And then they fuck. Okay.
There's some passion. She like kind of doesn't want it, but then she's like into it.
Yeah, that was weird.
She's like, no, but then she's like, yes, yes.
does.
We,
No, stop.
no,
We.
Oh no! Stop! Go! You are naughty!
The next morning, Mother wakes up immediately and she knows that she is pregnant. She's like, I'm pregnant.
And he's like, and he knows. She's like, I just know. And it's like, that's not how that
That's
works.
not how that works, but okay. And then God gets up and we get full Javier Bardem booty.
Was it in your cut? Because, okay, I gotta ask now. Okay, because I didn't see ass. I was like, oh, we're gonna get ass. And they didn't, not on YouTube. So I think YouTube cuts, because there's also one thing that was completely blurred out. So I need to ask you what it looked like. Because at the end, well, it was blurred out for me. And I was like,
oh, what the fuck?
I was like,
oh, then don't watch this on YouTube.
Yeah, because I guess YouTube blocks shit. So, now I'm gonna go back just to see his ass.
If you want to see some...
Because I think that this movie would have been a 10 out of 10 for me. I think if I'd seen his ass, and I didn't, so I was disappointed.
It was full ass, and it was so nice. Like, he is just scrumptious.
He's grabbing a bunch of papers. He's like, pen. I need a pen. I need a pen.
I need to work on my masterpiece now. I'm all inspired now.
So then she finds him down in the living room, and he's just writing. And he's inspired again. I don't think this is... At first I was like, oh, is this supposed to be 10 Commandments? But I don't think it is. I think it's just like...
I think it's New Testament.
That would make sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're right, because now it's... Thank you. Because I was like, no, it's not the 10 Commandments. Because I was like, they kind of just skip over the Exodus. They like, you know, they don't do anything with that. So you're right. This is like the New Testament.
I think. Okay. I don't know.
No, that would make sense. Because
at this point, the whole rest of the biblical thing is a little fuzzy. And we'll get into more of like the reason why I'm like, wait, I thought this was this, and now it's this. Yeah. I don't know. But she decides that she doesn't need her golden potion anymore, and she pours it down the drain. We still don't know what that was supposed to be.
And neither did the director.
And time passes, and now she's like fully pregnant, like about to give birth.
And she's like, it moved.
Oh.
It moved. Yeah, I'm assuming this was a time jump.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, this could be a weird ass movie where she's just like, gets, like, you know, the baby just grew super quick. I was like, I did not.
Because time kind of doesn't exist in this movie. Yeah.
Because everyone's showing up at like 3 a.m. to their fucking front door.
Yeah.
Like, hey, party.
And yeah, he comes down with his masterpiece.
And she's like, oh, it's sold a copy every single day. Like, it's so successful.
Yeah.
I'm like, one copy a day? I'm sorry, but for like an author, isn't that kind of awful?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, don't some books sell like tens of thousands? They're like release day? So one a day.
Well, I don't even know what she meant by that, because the book hasn't even released yet. Like, he's sharing it with her. We don't even see
a book.
Yeah, it's like a piece of paper, and she looks at it, and it's like we see a visual representation of him and her holding hands out in the meadow, and it's all burnt and all this destruction, but then it like heals itself like at the beginning of the movie. And she's like, it's perfect,
it's beautiful, oh, it's amazing.
And he immediately, right after that, gets a call from his publisher.
Yeah.
Who says that the piece is a smash hit, and she's offended that, like, he sent it to her before sharing it with Mother.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, like, I thought that I was the first one to read it, da-da-da-da-da-da. She goes into the nursery, and she sees that the bloody gash on the floor is back.
It's, like, opening up again.
And then we get the passing of more time, I guess, and she's all dolled up. She's prepared this, like, perfect dinner.
This, like, amazing meal, and...
to, like, I guess, celebrate his new book or whatever.
Or something. Really no explanation.
She's going to get the food, and she looks out the window.
And there is a man...
It's, like, a good jump scare. This was a good jump scare.
Peeking in, and she freaks out. She's like, what the fuck?
And then she realizes there's a bunch of fucking people on her porch.
She looks, and he's like, her husband, God, is on the front porch with just like a bunch of people. She's like, what the fuck?
And they're here for a meet and greet.
Yeah. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, they just want to see me. They love the book.
He's like signing autographs, and she's like, we were supposed to have a nice dinner. Like, what the fuck?
Get rid of them. And he's like, no.
He's like, no, I live for the applause.
God, I live for the applause.
Applause. And so she just gets...
I'm a
coons then. Suddenly the coons is me. Bitch, what the fuck was she talking about?
the Old Testament. I was like, wait a minute.
He was like, wait, this is art pop, bitch.
Art pop.
That's what he wrote, art pop. Wait, what if this was all a metaphor for art pop?
No.
No, because art pop didn't have this many fans.
Art pop also didn't have any meaning.
But it could mean anything.
My art pop could mean anything. We could belong together. Art pop. And then, like, she's like, whatever. She kind of, like, leaves them on the porch. She's like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna just keep with the dinner. And then all of a sudden, there's a woman, and she's like walking through the house with a kid. And she's like, what the fuck? What are you doing here? And she's like, where's the bathroom? Where's the bathroom? And she's like, I don't know, but leave. Where am I supposed to take him? Where's the bathroom? And then, like, the kid is, like, pissing himself.
She's like, okay, here, use this bathroom.
And there's a guy peeing.
And then there's, like, a whole line of people inside her house trying to pee.
And she's like, what are you people? She's like, get out.
Oh, my God. She goes upstairs. Oh, by the way, everyone's being a dick to her.
Yeah. They're being like, oh, my God, wait in line, lady. First of all, this is her fucking house.
This is my house.
She has squatters' rights as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. She goes upstairs, and she looks out the window, and we see that there are just hundreds of people coming in. There's paparazzi. This is where it just gets... For me, like, I'm like, I love having guests over at my house, but if this many people showed up, I would get such bad anxiety that I'd be like, I would have to, like, go seclude myself in a room. And I'm like, that would have been my mentality if I was her. I would have left.
Oh my God.
I would have left.
Yeah.
Fully left. But this is when the movie kind of starts to melt a little bit. And from this point on, nothing's making sense.
Yeah.
It's just like, a series of weird shit happening.
They're, like, rearranging the house. They're taking all the food she made. And they're setting up, like, a table for God to, like, start signing autographs.
Yeah, and she's like,
what are you doing?
And then they're like you said, they're eating her food. She's like, what are you doing? And someone says, the poet said, this is everyone's house.
Yeah.
And then Kristen Wiig shows up.
She's like, oh, the inspiration. And I'm like, that's where, when she showed up, I was like, how did this happen?
Right.
At what moment?
How did she get involved?
Because this is probably the most serious role she has ever done in her life. And why?
She's like his publisher, I guess. Yeah. And she's basically she's the cool mom from Mean Girls, basically. And also a little bit of Sidney Prescott's agent in Scream 4. Mm-hmm. She's there for no reason. And then people start stealing shit.
They start breaking shit.
Shit.
She's freaking out the whole time. Like, stop. And they're like, no.
Then she sees that God has now started marking people.
With, like, it's supposed to represent, like, the ashes.
The ash.
It's ink. I think it's ink from, like, his pen. But it's supposed to be, like, the Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of now getting to the point of the crucifixion of Christ, basically. So it's coming up.
And
like Ash Wednesday, you know, that's like before like we have Ash Wednesday, and then it's, you know, the Last Supper, which doesn't really happen in this, and then Good Friday, which is the crucifixion of Christ. And so I guess
we'll get to. I think something's supposed to represent the crucifixion, but we'll get to that.
Yes. No, there is a representation of it.
Yeah, but it also
it's so messy.
Anyway, there's all these hundreds of people here for the God meet and greet. Mother touches the house again, and the heartbeat is deteriorating. Yeah. She can tell it's like
the house is dying,
turning black. And then everyone's acting like they're in a cult. There's people like...
There's like zealots. There's like religious zealots show up.
Yeah.
They're like preaching, and it's like, really... And then...
Isn't there like a group of people like who are like slaves? Like...
There's like soldiers show up.
Yeah, like a SWAT team. There's a club, like a full-on like like strobe like dance party happening in her living room.
A bunch of people then being locked up into this weird like makeshift cage that's like made out of like bed and springs. And she's like trying to get them unlocked. They're like, it's a bunch of women. They're like, oh my God, help us. And she's like, can't. And then she then stumbles into a room where like a bunch of people have bags over their heads and they're on the ground.
Yes, and Kristen Wiig is back there and she's executing people with a gun.
Yeah, they're like just killing people, and she's like, get rid of the inspiration. And then all of a sudden Kristen Wiig starts walking, and then she blows up. She literally blows up, and I'm like, what is happening?
Literally, what is going on? There's a SWAT team that comes, and Mother gets maced, and then there's like a shooter. The shooters start, and there's like a whole shootout that happens. One guy, people are running around.
And he's like, it's a soldier is like trying to help her, and then he gets shot. Right,
she's like witnessing like war atrocities like happening,
and she's like, what is going on?
There's protesters, there's bombs that's going off,
people are dying left and right, and then her baby's coming now.
Yeah, and then it's like time for like her to give birth, and God finally shows up and like punches his way through the crowd, and they go up to his study, and he locks the door, and she starts to give birth. And yeah, I guess this is Jesus, but
yes.
So is she? But this is where I'm confused, because I'm like, is she Mother Earth or is she the Virgin Mary?
I think she's kind of both, but I think she is Mother Earth. It's very just like kind of a general explanation.
And again, it's like that's confusing. And this movie had thought about its narrative harder before just going for the whole like Bible metaphor, and that's it. Because it could have been a better story.
While she's holding the baby, and the baby was cute.
Yeah, and there's people trying to get in, and God, he like blocks the door with the
dresser, and he's like, "Can I hold him?" And she's like, "No,"
because she knows that he's gonna go and let the people like take the baby, basically.
She's like, "No," and he's like, "It's my son." She's like, "No, I'm not letting you hold this baby."
Yeah,
like, I'm not letting you hold him.
And they all of a sudden like the crowd stopped, like there's silence, and they're like, what's going on? And he like kind of hazardly opens up the door, and there's a gift basket there with like fruit and shit and
clothes for her,
and there's a note, and it's like, she's like, what's going on? And he says that, oh, my fans are out there, they're waiting for the baby, basically they want to see him. And she says, no, tell them to leave. And he goes, I don't want them to leave. And that's when you kind of like realize like, oh,
he likes the attention.
Yeah, he lives for the applause, and he wants fans more than he wants his baby and like his wife, basically. And he's like, let me hold him. And she says, no. And he says, but I'm his father. And she goes, I'm his mother.
She said it.
And I said, oh, this is a potential mother.
This is a potential mother.
Oh, my mother. Is that Jennifer Coolidge? She's, oh, mother.
Oh, mother.
This was so fun. I loved her saying that. Iconic. He literally, his response is, Beth's eyelashes blank stare. Like, he has nothing, like, because, like, what do you say? Like, she's the mother. Like, like...
She carried him for 9 months.
Exactly.
Maybe.
So, maybe. Or, you know, whatever. The time doesn't exist, I guess. And he's like, okay, whatever. So this is what we're doing. So then they have a stare down for, like, 3 days. While she's, like, holding the baby and, like, nursing the baby. And she's trying to, like, stay awake because she knows that, like, if she nods off, he's just going to take the baby. And ultimately, she, like, nods off for, like, 0.2 seconds.
And he got the baby.
She wakes up, the baby's gone. Yeah. And then she's like, my baby! And this scene's wild. They're crowd surfing the baby.
And we just hear, like, a crunch.
Yeah.
And so the baby got...
Baby's
killed.
neck
And this
snapped.
represents the crucifixion of Christ, because it is like, you know, the Bible, it's like, you know, Jesus was sent to earth.
Oh my God, there's literally a billboard that said there is evidence for God.
Yeah, it's called Mother.
Mother! That is so funny.
And, you know, like, humans, you know, killed the son of God, which is
killing the son.
And then, okay, so this is the part that was blurred out. She gets to an altar. Was his, like, corpse there?
Yes, okay. I can't believe that like, they blurred this out, because it's such an important part of this.
I was like, what? And then, like...
It's really graphic and disgusting. They have, like, in the matter of, like, 2 seconds, ripped the baby apart, and it's, like, torso with all of its guts is, like, hanging out on the table, and the people are, like, eating it.
Which is to represent the eating of the body and the blood of Christ.
Communion, right?
Communion,
Yeah.
And she... freaks out, grabs a shard of glass, and just starts
cutting
people, killing them, and then
people.
They turn on her, start beating
the absolute shit out of her.
Start calling her a whore, a tramp.
All of these slurs.
And then all of a sudden, God's like, "No, stop!" And this is where she's like, "Fuck you, I'm done."
Get out of my house!
I don't think we ever talked about this, which is bad. So there's a point in the movie where she's in the basement and she finds, like, this hidden alcove that's, like, leads to an oil tank.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's
Which
earlier.
is kind of a point.
Doesn't, like, a frog come out of it and, like, a scorpion?
And the frog is the most terribly CGI'd frog I've ever seen. Like,
Right.
I'm like, why didn't they just get a real fucking frog?
I forgot about that. Yeah, was that supposed to be, like, the plague or something?
I guess, because it was also, like, a fly. I don't know what that was supposed to represent. That was the point where I was like, what?
Yeah.
But she then remembers, she goes and looks. She's kind of like pushing, like, God helps her up, and she starts pushing her way through everyone, and she goes to the
basement.
Well, she first goes to the room where Adam had been staying, and she pulls up the grate,
his Zippo lighter that she
finds
had
his lighter, which had been buried under a bunch of dust, and, like, it was in, like, the vent, and she pulls it out, and she then, like, falls down the stairs to the basement. God's, like, coming after her, like, trying to stop her, and she goes to the giant oil barrel, smashes it open with, like, a wrench, and the oil's, like, pouring out, and he's like, no, don't do it, don't, like, and she lights she blows the place up.
He says, but I loved you, and she goes, you never loved me. You loved how much I loved you. Oh. Yeah, and then she, like, blows the house up. We get that scene from the beginning of the woman on fire, but now it's Jennifer Lawrence on fire. Yeah. And now she's just this, like, crispy little critter. Everyone's dead. God is perfectly unscathed.
And she's like, what are you?
And he goes, I am I.
Which is a reference to the Bible. It's a translation of a Hebrew script, Hebrew text, which is just basically, like, when they're, like, whenever the Hebrews would ask God, like, who are you? What are you? He would say, I am what I am. I am, you know.
I am what I am.
So there's, like, multiple translations of what it could be, but, like, I am I, and so...
Yeah, so at this point, it's just, like, we're being now completely obvious. If we weren't so obvious before.
Yeah.
Flagrantly, this is just a biblical metaphor.
Yeah, and then...
She says, where are you taking me? He says, the beginning.
Which is another reference. So this is also, I think the whole explosion is to represent the book of Revelations, which talks about, like, the end times, the apocalypse, and how God is... So God is also referred to as the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end.
Yes.
So this is, you know, and basically it's just this whole idea that, like, it's all sin.
And it's the Bible, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Revelation it talks about the earth will end in fire, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that makes sense, because, like, the house blew up, da-da-da-da-da. And then he says, give me one last thing. And she's like, I have nothing left to give. And he goes, your love.
He like rips open her chest then and pulls out a crystal.
Yeah.
And puts it on a pedestal. The pedestal he put the old one on.
Yeah.
And everything. And then it literally goes back to the beginning of like the house being restored.
So this is like God rebuilding the world after destroying it.
A new heaven and a new earth. Because that's also in the book of Revelations. It talks about there will be a new heaven and a new earth.
So this is all a cycle. And we see a new woman dressed up like Mother.
It's the exact same beginning. She does the exact same thing where she turns
wakes
over.
up.
God isn't there. And
Babe, are you there? Yeah.
Babe. She just goes, babe. And it ends.
Yeah. And that's Mother.
And that's Mother. And it's...
It's the whole time you're like, okay.
I guess the whole thing is to try and... I guess, like, what I kind of took from it is, like, maybe this is him trying to say, like, God is actually very selfish and not a loving God because he allowed all of this to happen, you know, like he sent his son to earth just to be murdered by his creation, and like he, like, you know, this whole idea of like, you didn't love me, you only loved that I loved you, you didn't like actually care for me. I guess that's what he's trying to say, but I'm still just kind of like,
it's unclear. I guess also maybe this could be like a climate change thing. Like,
I think it's also supposed to be like a reference of how like we are killing the earth,
but it's now that's kind of more interesting to me.
It doesn't go there because this film fucking goes there, but
it doesn't. Like, that would be more interesting if this wanted to be more of a clear, like, oh, we need to protect the earth, we need to, you know, da 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 da, or else it's just gonna get destroyed. Then do that.
Yeah,
I would be more fine with that. But this movie has no point of view.
No,
he doesn't know what he's trying to say. And in the end, he ends up saying a little bit of everything, therefore saying nothing. I don't know. But this was wild, and it was fun to, like, rehash all this stuff. And I will say, that whole scene with, like, Kristen Wiig, and, like, oh, now we're in, like, the war breaks out in the house, and then, like, the people, like, raving. That was just, like... That was kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
It was weird, but I was like I said, it's so chaotic because it just keeps going on, and you're like at a point where I'm like, again, if this is my house, I would have freaked the fuck out.
Yeah,
I would have been like,
oh, and another thing I forgot to mention is that if this movie wasn't so poorly, like if the cinematography and the shots themselves like wasn't so close up on her face the whole time, then I would have enjoyed it more, because like most of this movie is just really tight close-up shots on Jennifer Lawrence with that dopey look on her face. Yeah. And I wish we could have seen more of what was actually going on. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Damn, I'm gonna have to look at the scene of his ass, because
You're
I
right.
felt cheated.
I know. I was like, you know what?
Cheated.
I was like, if this movie doesn't get any better, we at least have this scene. Thank you so much, Darren Aronofsky, for at least giving us some butt.
Does he have a hairy butt?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I feel cheated. I
know. Yeah, I don't know why you would take out that. That's the best part of the movie. That and Michelle Pfeiffer.
I think it was on YouTube or something. I don't know.
That's the other thing is, Michelle Pfeiffer should have been in the whole fucking movie.
She should have been Mother. Sorry.
I know. Why wasn't this about Michelle Pfeiffer? Like, I just love fucking Michelle Pfeiffer. Her and Angela Bassett. Those are my favorite actresses.
Love Angela
They can
Bassett.
do no wrong in my mind. Okay, well,
that was Mother.
That was Mother. I don't know what else to say about it. If you have watched this movie and maybe there is something that you can think of that we overlooked, or you let us know.
I felt like
seems pretty cut and dry to me.
I felt like it was very like, yeah, that's what they were referencing from the Bible. I just didn't think it was like, it just didn't do anything. I don't know. It just didn't really have anything to say, I guess.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I'm happy to like not ever like think about this movie again.
Watch this film? No. I will not. Am I happy?
And I will say, I watched it. This was my second time watching it, and it gets worse on second viewing, because when you really like have a full understanding going into it, oh yeah, this is like a biblical thing, then the fact that there's no point of view or like actual like meaning in it really stands out. So
again, the only thing I can take from it is that God is an attention-seeking whore.
Oh, he lives
and is an asshole. But it's just like, in my, again, because like while I am not a religious person, my experience growing up with religion, that was never our view of God and my family's view of God and my schools I went to, that was never the view of God. So it just kind of felt like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's coming from a critical point, but I've seen people being critical of Catholicism in much more meaningful ways.
I mean, check out our review of Carrie from last week.
Literally.
Very poignant take on.
So I think that's what also just hurt this film for me. Is just like, because Carrie was the last one we watched.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of like, okay, don't really have anything to say.
Well, yeah. So next week, well, we're trying to we have like a plan, but we're gonna see how we're gonna make it work. I don't want to like give it away what we're doing next week yet, but we might have a special guest. Stay tuned. That has been it for this week's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us at Mother's House or Planet Earth or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. Garden of Eden, whatever
the fuck they were going for, because it was never really explained.
And we hope you had such a fun time with us there. Please remember to follow the pod, like the pod, and please leave us a review. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify. Please leave a comment, share, all that lovely stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
Love that kind of stuff.
And you can send us movie requests for future episodes. Although we do kind of have like a pretty good map at this point of what we're gonna do.
But still.
But we still always love the requests, so continue to send them. And you can follow me at Parker_Will_C. And where can they follow you, Stevie?
You can follow me at StevieNash95 on Instagram. And you can also follow our podcast's Instagram, which is at Let's Scream Pod. And that you will get all of our updates whenever we post. And
some memes. We put some memes up in
Yes,
there.
we're going to try to be better. We need to be better. We should do one per film, but...
Yeah. But until next time, this has been Let's Scream.
Bye.